that very comprehensive overview. And as Anna mentioned, we're trying to get to your questions as quick as possible in the Q&A. And I think Anna will also take a look now on her end as well. And then hopefully we have a little bit of time to get to a couple of the questions verbally as well towards the end. But now I'd like to get straight to introducing our two esteemed company speakers that we have joining us today, Mr. Patrick Soknikov from Sodexo and Ms. Beatrice Kirubi from Bamburi Cement. As you might know, both Patrick and Beatrice represent companies who are really making very great strides towards gender equality within their organizations and beyond, really, with all the excellent initiatives and programs that they've set forth. So let's get straight into it. We mindful of time as well. So maybe Patrick, I turn to you first. I know that Sodexo signed the WEPs in 2018, and I'd like to start with a pretty foundational question to kick off the conversation. So why did your company sign the WEPs? And it would be great if you can also share with us some of the benefits that you've seen from your company doing so.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me today. I'm Patrick Soshnikov. My pronouns are he and they, and I'm the Chief D&I Officer of Sodexo Group after a long, very operational career. And I must say that as a comprehensive framework, the WEPs have been instrumental in driving leadership commitment within Sodexo. It enabled us to define kind of a holistic global approach first, but they also supported a very successful, practical deployment of our global ambition and strategy through the whole organization. And in terms of benefits, the WEPs have been pivotal in shaping Sodexo's gender equality measures, initiatives. As the WEPs did serve as a critical tool to ensure the leadership engagement. It is absolutely essential that the leadership gets engaged towards gender equality if you really want to record it and to progress in this term. And so the group CEO signed it first, obviously, but then it has been asked to the country leaders to get to know it, the principles, and to get to sign the WEPs. And it was not mandatory, right? We really wanted to have a buy-in, so wanted them to be engaged and to do it on purpose and because it was making sense for them. But once you have signed it, the pledge, it holds every signature accountable to live up to that commitment. So somehow it really much supported the alignment within the company of the group ambition when it goes about inclusion in general and in terms of gender equality specifically, and it made it progress very significantly.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, that buy-in is so important and making sure that it trickles down, right? Of course, that top leadership buy-in is very important, but also, like you said, trickling down to the country level is so important to get that localization as well. Thank you for that answer. And Beatrice, same question really to you. Bamburi Cement has been a WEP signatory since 2020, offering some great initiatives. So yeah, I also would like to ask you why your company signed the WEPs and if you could also share a few of the benefits you've seen.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here and as part of the panelists to discuss the women empowerment principles. So our journey in Bamburi started in 2016, and we we did what we thought was right at that time. But when we came across the WEPs, it gives us a framework with measurable targets and commitment. It also had done a lot of the research, like the e-learnings, the gender equality target frameworks, which were really interesting because it clearly showed us this is where you are, this is where you need to get, these are the stakeholders you need to put in place, and these are the pillars that you need to work on. So for us, that was very, very important, especially in line with our corporate strategy and community engagement. So that was one of the reasons why we signed up for the WEPs. Also for us, health and safety is a key pillar for the company. And so when we saw within the WEPs that one of the pillars that we needed to pay attention to was the health and safety of men and women across the organization, that was interesting because we needed to see how can we improve our already good records in health and safety and what do we need to do around that area. So your next question has been, what are some of the benefits that we've experienced? We've been recognized across the country for our best practices in women empowerment, that which has enhanced the company reputation. Also, when we signed up to the WEPs and the attention that we paid to it has brought employee engagement. And when you look at employee engagement and making a workplace more inclusive, the benefits that come out of it are immense. When employees are happier, the productivity of the company increases, the customer engagement. There are so many things that can be linked into employee engagement. It also strengthened, when it comes to the community, it strengthened our community relations with some of the projects that we work together with the community, like the Women on Wheels program. That has enhanced our community relations. When it comes to procurement, we have received inclusive procurement strategy, whereby we are having a diverse set of participants, which has also improved the company reputation. So yes, we are happy to be part of the WEP signatories.
Great, thank you, Beatrice. And it's great to see that maybe there were specific principles that you saw within the WEPs framework that really drew you to it. For example, this health and safety aspect, which was very important to your work specifically. Yeah, thank you both for those. And I'm sure some of the participants are getting some of those tips of what WEP signatories can actually expect benefit-wise once they sign up. So now maybe moving from that initial commitment to action, could you share how you're implementing the WEPs and any plans you may have to scale that implementation? Maybe Beatrice, we can start with your answer this time.
Yes, we've put a lot of initiatives in place. Once, like you saw, the first principle is leadership commitment. So even after we signed, we have had a sponsor at EXCO level and at the board level dedicated to ensuring that the implementation is happening and speaking the voice at that level, which is very, very important. The other thing we have done is set up a women council, which also ensures that we have paid attention to the women and that we are going to all the sites and all the levels and talking to all the women to ensure that this implementation is happening and their voice is being considered. The other thing we've done is measuring and reporting, a very key pillar within the principles, because if you don't know where you are, then you don't know how you're going to proceed. So we measure, we have a dashboard that we do quarterly and it's reported at every level, that we look at things like the employee exits, who are exiting, aggregated at gender, both male and female, who is being recruited, who is being trained, who is being promoted, at the policies that we have implemented, are they being utilized? Who is utilizing them? Also, we have implemented measures in our employee engagement. Every year when we run our employee engagement, then we are going to segregate it by gender and look at what the women are saying and implement what the changes that they have put in place. So like I said, in our community engagement, we have the Women on Wheels program that we are running. And also we have community engagement when it comes to working with the young girls, mentorship from university level and also to those in primary school, so that we can ensure that we are preparing engineers who are going to join us in the future and influence the young women to take careers in STEM. So those are some of the things that we have done. How do we plan to scale this in the near future? Two things come into mind. Partnership and collaboration, very, very important. You cannot do this alone. If you do see somebody who is able to do it better than you, go and study and copy with pride what they are doing. We are considering to improve our partnership with like Federation of Kenya Employers. They have programs for women empowerment. We have programs in Kenya Association of Manufacturing, Women in Manufacturing. We want a seat there, we want a voice there, so that our implementation is just not at the workplace, but we can also influence the community on how we can move forward. So the other thing we need to do, or we are planning to do very soon, is to enhance our training and development, especially when it comes to the coaching and training of the women, so that our pipeline, our talent pipeline is tight, and we can continue having a strong pipeline with more women making it to the top. So those are some of the things that we are looking for planning and scaling in the future.
That's great, Beatrice. It's great to hear that the focus is not just on the women on top, but like you're saying, also building out that pipeline is so important. And also different practices for retention and promotion, et cetera, moving up to the leadership level. But it's also great to hear that you're engaging with these partnerships beyond just the four walls of the company, right? So truly looking at that framework that the WEPs provides through the workplace, marketplace, and community, looking to see how you can collaborate with different organizations in Kenya, and truly having a great impact through your initiatives. It's great to hear that. Patrick, over to you with the same question. So from commitment to action, how is Sodexo implementing the WEPs, and any plans to scale that implementation?
Yeah, the web have very been something like, how do we get to the next step in all what we do in terms of inclusion and gender equality? So Sodexo started 20 years ago and signed the web more recently. As of today, 45 countries where we operate, the leadership has signed the web. So it's very much done to the organization. So the first thing is that it raises a huge awareness across the organization, and it also creates the right behaviors, right? And all the consequences of the right behaviors, but also setting consequences to the wrong behavior. So it's very much something which happens over time, and it's instilling through the organization. Now, when it goes about implementation of concrete action, we, as you just heard, we are a global company, and obviously we set up global programs, like a program called She Leads, which is very much training and mentoring female young leaders to become better leaders, and to grow, to develop, to destroy the barriers that they may face, even in a company like Sodexo, because the society is a society, and we live into it, and so we need to overcome the bias, and we need to give more arms and more tools to women to thrive. So there are global programs, and these global programs are dedicated to local managers, local leaders across the globe. That's one example. But also when it goes about pay equality, the WEPs are obviously fighting and for pay equality as much as we are, and this is very much a top-down instruction, striving to pay equality. It takes time, because we should never forget that we have to take into account the economic barriers and the economic reality. So, but at least this is controlled, this is measured. There are specific actions done to reduce the pay gap. Non-discrimination policies, this is globally set and locally adapted. Everything needs to be locally adapted, because the history is different, the cultures are different, and we need to fit with the market we operate in whatsoever. And that's also something very important, is that gender equality is a business issue. It's a moral obligation, as it has been said in the introduction, and as it has been said in the introduction rightly, it is a business issue. exclusion impact both the cost of the company and the growth of the company. And it impacts the cost of the company, because if you don't manage to have people being comfortable within your organization, they leave it. And the cost of turnover is huge. And certainly a company like us, where we have 430,000 people, employees, serving our consumers and clients, that's very, very important. That at all levels in the organization, there is this feeling of I am considered for who I am, and obviously with specific actions when it goes about gender. But that's also a growth topic, and you in the WEPs, and what you, when you're hearing me, you will recognize the WEPs principles. Is that we are an industry where we are serving meals for millions of people every day. But a lot of companies can do that, maybe not at the scale, but locally for sure. So if we want to differentiate, one of the way to differentiate is to engage into initiative with our clients. And an initiative on inclusion and gender equality are initiatives that our clients do appreciate, because they are facing the same issues that we do, because they have the same convictions, most of them. And getting into the conversation with clients is very rich, and it's really helping us to differentiate. And this is the same with the suppliers, right? So basically, the WEPs are directly and indirectly influencing the set of actions that we put in place to be more competitive. And it's very important to always connect whatever you do and whatever we do in terms of inclusion with the business. But that's pretty easy, actually, because the business case is very, very strong. So all this is supporting our brand positioning, our recognition in the marketplace, and hopefully make Sodexo an employer of choice, because we want to be an employer of choice. We need talents. We need the best talents, and deploying the WEPs principles down to the organization in our way of working, in our behaviors, managerial behaviors, is critical. And therefore, you have trainings, right? We build trainings. We use material from the web to build our own training, and to get our managers growing, understanding, being better aware, and getting to the right behaviors.
Yeah, Patrick, I don't think we could have said it better ourselves, particularly on the business case. It truly is a detrimental cost to the business if you're not engaging in gender equality work. And there's so many growth opportunities, like you said. And maybe similar to what Beatrice was saying about engaging sort of that 360, right? It's not just in your four walls. You need to go beyond that to your clients, to your supply chain, and look at it there as well. But great to hear about these programs as well, that Sodexo has signed the WEPs in 45 countries, and completely agree that that localization piece is so important to really have that real impact that we're looking for. Thank you both for sharing that, and seeing that, there is action being taken, and companies don't just stop at commitment always. One important point that Beatrice also mentioned before is about the measuring and reporting piece, which was in our recent WEPs tool report. We found that only 44% of companies have time-bound measurable goals and targets set. So it's definitely the time to use frameworks like the WEPs, using the WEPs tool to help set those goals. So now moving,
if I may on that one. Sorry, if I may on that one, Margarita, it's absolutely true. And I think we can go. You need to measure. If what is not measured is not done. No, you need to measure. You need to set KPIs. And I think the next step, and that we entered it 10 years ago about, is to link this performance, non-financial performance, or of gender balance at all levels of the company, to the remuneration package of the leadership. And that's very impactful too, because you say this is commitment, but you need to deliver, guys. And you deliver, and you are recognized for that, awarded for that, rewarded for that. Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a great incentive as well for leadership to truly engage and get serious about these goals as well. Thank you for sharing that. So moving on to a very critical question. I know, Patrick, you touched on this briefly at the start, but how did you actually go about securing that internal buy-in required to sign the WEPs? And I'm sure our participants today are looking for any recommendation or advice in order to see how you went about that and how perhaps they can do it in their companies as well.
The first step is to have the CEO of the company committed, convinced, right? If it's not the case, we are not going to go through the business case, but you need to talk about the business case, and that's important because, as I said, it's all about business at the end. For the CEO of the company, right? You need to make choices in investment. So they need to make choices of investment, and delivering on the WEPs is very much investing in gender equality. So you need to have the commitment of the CEO of the company, and then you need to engage into conversation with the executive committee members, supported by the CEO, just explaining what the WEPs are, why they do exist. And some will be very easy to convince, some will be more difficult to get on board. But that's a real influencing job. It takes time, or it may take time. Hopefully, Sodexo, as we were very much engaged already, it was not so complicated to engage the top leadership. But that's a crucial step, right? If you don't get that, first of all, you don't get them signed because it needs to be signed by the CEO. But most importantly, you don't get the results that you may expect from the WEPs, right? And then you need to go down through the leadership. Talk about the WEPs during leadership conferences. You need to communicate about it. You need to talk about it, not in one thing, right? Not going all to the seven principle in a row. Just taking one, taking another one, explaining what it means for the business, taking the ones which are the most critical and the most tangible for our employees and our leadership. In parallel, you need to define the metrics. What do you want to measure? And basically, for example, measuring gender representation at all level in a company is not so complicated, because gender and age, binary gender and age, are the two data that every employee needs to give when signing an employment contract. So all companies get this data, more or less data, automatic, more or less, but at the end, locally, everybody knows, and the data is available. So it's a good start to talk about gender representation throughout the organization, but you need to set metrics and again move forward on other metrics like the gender pay gap. And once again, you don't need to do it everywhere at the same time. You need to do it where it's possible, where we have the buy-in of the leadership, demonstrating that it has a value, and that thanks to that, you are more visible, you attract better talent, you retain your existing talents, you have women being promoted. So that's very much a journey, and that's definitely a journey, because depending on when you start, but even when you are supposed to be good, what you see that you still can progress, and you must progress. You must progress in transparency in our case. I mean, I just went to the gap analysis recently, and I was actually happy and not happy. We scored 74 out of 100. You were kind enough to tell me that it was good, but I think it's not good enough. We need to be better in communicating, in being transparent, because once you are transparent, once you communicate about it, somehow you are committed to progress, because you are a business and you need to progress. So engage the top, communicate, set, measure, and then set targets, and hopefully link to packages. But even if you don't go that far, you need to get to set objectives on what you measure, which are demonstrating that you are progressing.
Thank you, Patrick. And I really like that mindset of we're doing great, but there's always room for improvement. So that's definitely the right mindset. Beatrice, over to you with the right question. I know we're a little bit close to time, but over to you for the same question. I know these tips are very useful for our participants to hear from you.
Patrick has done an excellent job on taking us through the steps.
Thank you.
So maybe what I'm going to add is you as the champion, you need to read. You need to read and understand what the WEPs are, because you become the point that everybody will be referring to and asking these questions. So all that material that has been shared, try and get as much information as you can. The other thing I'd like to add is identify your key stakeholders and sponsors, because this is a project management kind of thing. You are going to present a proposal to the business. It might cost money. You are going to have people who will support you. You are going to have resistance. You're going to have those who are going to support you. So you need to have all this information so that you can all bring them together. One of the things that I did is I found a company that had signed up so that they could be able to help me with the business case, because I'd not done this before. So they helped me to put together the business case, talk about how it's going to improve employee satisfaction and retention, how it's going to improve, to enhance the reputation of the company, our community engagement. So they took me through that. So that kind of mentorship from somebody who's already done it before is very, very important. Then now you go and present to the EXCO, present to the leadership, address the concern. They might send you back and tell you to come back with more information. If not, you'll have done your stakeholder mapping and stakeholder engagement before you go into EXCO, getting the buy-in of everybody, and you might just get the signatory right there. So those are some of the things that worked for me: communicating, getting the stakeholder mapping, and ensuring who's for me, who has more questions, especially maybe on the production side, maybe on the engineering side. They might have more questions than those who are in sales. So make sure you sit with them, clarify all that information that they need to have, and then now go present to the EXCO, present to the board. I had to present at those two levels, from the CEO, then I went to the EXCO, then I went to the board, and finally you get the signature. And here we are today, 4 years later.
That's great. Thank you so much for that really practical sort of step-by-step of what you did. That's very, very useful. I hate to cut the panel short, but we are at time now. So hopefully we can get some more questions to Patrick and Beatrice if that works. I know we have a lot of questions in the chat, but we do have to wrap up with the timing now. It was a true pleasure to have you both with us. Thank you for being so transparent and open, sharing all your experience with us today. And with that, I'll hand the floor to our colleague Greet Katar to conclude the session. Thank you.